get yourself together before it's too late.
Boom.
Well, here we are back again, Brian. Another segment of Divided We Stand, another topic. And this is big news. This affects every American, and it affects actually everyone in the world. And people say, what are you talking about? Well, we now know who the Republican nominee for vice president will be. Trump, on the first day of the convention, which was yesterday or Monday, depending on when this segment airs, has chosen J.D. Vance. Now, for anyone who doesn't know who J.D. Vance is, here's kind of what you would need to know just for a start. J.D. Vance lived in Appalachia, which of course is abject poverty, kind of came from that. He was smart enough or good enough to get into Harvard Law School. He came out a lawyer. And then in 2016, he wrote a book called Hillbilly Elegy. And it just shot up. It was a perfect timing because what people were trying to do then, Brian, was to understand this Trump culture, right, of, angry white men. And all the news organizations, you remember that. They were sending people, let's talk to, let's go to the coffee shop and let's find an angry, and Vance, the book was good. I mean, it was good. Certainly better than many lawyers have written. But it didn't stop there. He used that to become political. And initially, he was very much, he was a conservative, but very much opposed to Donald Trump, as were so many, right, in 2016. Such comments as I can't stomach Trump. I think he's mean and leading, I like this one, mean and leading the white working class to a very dark place. That was true, JD. You should have stuck with that one. He's unfit, a direct quote from Vance, unfit for the office. And early on, Vance was one of the first people to compare Trump to Hitler before he was even elected, right? But then in one of your old states, you're a graduate of Bowling Green. So in Ohio, he had declared residency in Ohio. And I don't know if he declared because he was going to run, but whatever. Suddenly, he starts moving in a little different direction, suddenly moving not so slowly from a Trump detractor into one of Trump's biggest supporters. And that helped him win a Senate seat.
And that seemed to happen throughout the Republican Party, that same theme,
right?
Which makes you wonder about the power base behind Trump that led to that.
Correct. Absolutely correct. But again, I've said, and I believe this to be true, currently, Trump is the Republican Party, but there's a catch. Just like Dr. Frankenstein created a monster, Trump has created a monster in many ways by empowering and endorsing the most foul, right-wing people in America. And he's co-opted the rest of the Republican Party. There is no more Republican Party of Barry Goldwater or Ronald Reagan or the Bushes.
Right. It's just
what it is.
Party of monsters. It's different. It's
exactly.
Different.
No, you're exactly right, Brian. It is a party of monsters. So anyway, Vance starts becoming a really gung-ho advocate for Donald Trump, an apologist of that type of thing. And, there was all kinds of speculation as there are, because everyone knew that Donald Trump was going to be the nominee for president. Nikki Haley knew it. Ron DeSantis knew it. They took their shots. And then they too have folded back in the group. But Vance didn't do anything for presidency. I don't know if he had, he has tremendous ambition. That's what everybody says. Well, you do have tremendous ambition if you can rise from Appalachia to Harvard Law School. It doesn't speak highly of you. It speaks highly of your ambition. What are you willing to sell, or what are you willing to do to get there? And so anyway, at the end, and maybe I'll ask Donald Trump, since I live in 3 metro stops in Washington, D.C., if he were to get president, or if he's not. I want to ask him, how seriously, I honestly thought, Brian, and I was wrong, I honestly thought he might get Kristi Noem as his. Now, I never thought, you heard
Right,
Marjorie
because
Taylor Greene.
it was a beauty contest, essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was, Marjorie Taylor Greene. No, she was never in contention. Lauren Boebert. No, never in contention. Elsie Stefanik, I think she was in some. A lot of people wanted, they picked their woman, but it wasn't. But I think Kristi Noem, until she decided it was wise to say that you shot your dog in her book, and she just dropped off. When's the last time you've heard her name? You haven't. So the three names that circulated, were Jd Vance for vice president, Marco Rubio for
But he was
vice
in
president,
Florida, so he couldn't do it anyway.
and Doug Burgum from North Dakota. And so there were kind of three interesting candidates in a way. Vance, a new hot, nobody knows much about him guy, 39 years old. Establishment of the Republican Party, and then Doug, who was everybody's response,
Right.
And everybody, he's going to do this, he can do that. Well, he ended all the speculation and ended it early because they thought he might even hold it till Wednesday. But on the first day of the convention, he comes out and does Vance. So what we don't know is he doesn't have a long political career behind him, but we do know some of what he has supported. And Brian, I'd like you to react to this when I get done. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stands that he's taken. And certainly, it doesn't matter whether he believes in them or not. This is how he's going to govern. Okay? He has supported a nationwide abortion ban. Now, anybody can say, well, yeah, but for the first time, and it's the first time, and I didn't realize the length of time. It's the first time in 40 years, that the Republican platform coming out of their convention will not have a call for a nationwide abortion ban. And we'll talk about that later on the show. But Vance has said that. He's even criticizing having exceptions for rape and incest.
Right, because he says you're causing a second mistake.
Exactly. He says two wrongs don't make a right. Yeah, okay. That's exactly right. If my granddaughter gets raped in Alabama, where she lives, I would prefer that she have the option, if she chose and her family chose, and we all sat down together, which we would do, and say, get the abortion. So in that, I have to say, Mr. Vance, you're completely wrong. Now, think about this. He has called Social Security and Medicare, quote, the biggest roadblock to real fiscal sanity. Now, that runs a risk to me, and it shows how much politics has changed. Nobody used to be able to say anything bad about Social Security or Medicare because they were afraid of the vote. But the Republicans now, baby boomers, very few of the great generation, silent generation left. It's baby boomers. We're the oldest. They're willing to, because of their hatred and their fear, they are willing to vote against their own self-interest. So I'm going to say to anybody who is Medicare age, and you could say everybody, but eventually will be. But I'm going to say tonight, and I'll say it consistently, anyone who votes for the Republican ticket and gets Medicare right now or Social Security, you are really, really, really stupid when it comes to voting for your own self-interest. I would ask you, how important is that Social Security check to you? And unless you're a millionaire, or whatever, or have, a family that supports you in a life of luxury, it's pretty damn important. I mean, I get
it's important, and you paid into, you worked into it,
and it's
that
not a
your
handout.
work, right?
Brian, expand on that a little bit, if you would.
Well,
I think a lot of people
see that people don't understand. First of all, you have to understand payroll taxes as they are, because first of all, it's very unfair. So the very fact that, well, for example, when you have to pay in for Social Security and for Medicare, which inside it's Medicaid, you're paying a certain percentage on your own income, and it is applied to all of your income if you make less than $130,000 a year. But as somebody who makes a lot more than that, it caps at that. So you're getting screwed. So you would definitely want to hold on to what you have, because the rich guy or gal, they don't get taxed on all their income. You do. And that's there to save you. So, for example, when you're talking about Social Security, when you're 65, or if you have, if something should happen where you need to help your kids out, then that's where the Social Security gets paid out.
Right.
And of course, the Medicare is extremely important as you get older because this is when your body really starts to deteriorate. Now,
Right.
it's true that young people, you can be born fine, and then when you're 25 or 30, you might have a deadly disease. But when you get to our age, things really start happening, and without that Medicare, you're in trouble. So those things are literally lifesavers. It's not a lot of money, but for most of us, it's you take what is your pension or whatever you have of assets plus your Social Security, and you can live comfortably until the day that you die. That would not happen if they take it away. And the only way, again, these what they call entitlements, this is your money. The point is that it may run out of money, but the only reason it shouldn't run out of money is because we need to tax people who make more money so that they get taxed on all their income.
Correct.
It's like, if I can make an analogy, it's kind of like, okay, if you buy a Toyota, Camry or Corolla, and you get taxed on it, that's one thing. But if you had a limousine, they'd say, oh, only on the first $20,000 you pay tax, and you don't pay tax after that. So it's
Right.
really a lot easier for you. So the system is rigged. It's absolutely rigged. The payroll tax, there's only one tax, by the way, that is a progressive tax, and that's the income tax. And even at that, you pay, at least with the income tax, the rich understand that it's a marginal tax. So we get taxed at the same amount at certain levels, but
Right.
when you get to the higher, so the other ones are just complete. Most taxes are regressive, and the payroll tax is absolutely regressive, and it's a cheat because that means that a rich person or anybody that makes over $130,000 or $40,000, they can take their money and they can invest it instead of being taxed on it, and it's a crime. And the problem is that nobody can explain that.
Well,
Seemingly.
and another thing, Brian, we use these catchwords. I could just hear if there was a conservative, or let's do a MAGA. I don't want to use conservative. A MAGA person listens and say, that boy right there, that Weinstein boy, he's a communist,
Right.
or he's a socialist, which is not true.
Not true.
Dwight Eisenhower, I know you can't really compare yours, but I find this ironic. When Dwight Eisenhower was president, I think most everyone would agree we'd won the war. We had a war hero as president. He was Republican. Okay. He was conservative. But the tax was up to 90%.
At that higher end. At the higher end. It wasn't like it was 92% all the way through.
Oh, no, 90% at the higher. They did
at the higher levels, it goes up to 92.
They did it fairly, right? I mean, they did it fairly. And so, that's when we got the interstates. I mean, that's that.
And you wouldn't want people who complain, who say, well, you earned it. Well, we can even get beyond that. Maybe somebody inherited it. But the point is that if you have a certain group of people, a certain number of people who are just basically taking all the important assets that could be used for something else. So if you notice you're buying a big yacht that has everything that's gold plated, you're taking a lot of assets for one person. And in a world where there's scarcity, limited resources, that's a violation that we have to accept. You see, and again, this is that Republican mentality that we kind of talk about. They're going against their own interests because even though they're not rich, they're like the person who buys the lottery ticket, and they're gonna fucking believe that they're gonna win. They're already in their mind making plans. The what if
to spend that, right?
To suspend something that they don't have, and so much to the point they'll argue with their spouses over, who would get what and all this, and then it's a mess. So that whole idea of, well, the rich deserve it, or I may be rich one day, it can't sustain itself with a planet with 7 billion people.
Now, we'll move off there. I have two more things that disturb me that Vance has established a position on. Another one is that, and this really bothers me. He has said that women should stay in violent marriages because marriage is sacred and it's forever. No, Mr. Vance, no. Now, Mr. Vance is married. He met his wife in law school. Uh, Interesting enough, they met in a group, an ad hoc impromptu group, who got together to look at how white men were being suffered and mistreated in America. So Vance had this long, but that's natural. He comes from Appalachia, and I mean, so there's nothing there. But she is from an immigrant background, and she has a foreign-sounding name. And their children, of course, are a product of a mixed union between an Asian Indian and an Appalachian white guy. But that's something else that bothers me about Republicans. I go a lot to the Heritage Foundation, which is the group, and I go there to listen and argue because I'm in D.C., and they have open sessions on different things, and I'll go. But they're the ones, for anybody who isn't aware, they are the ones who are behind the 2025 plan, which lays out what exactly will happen if Donald Trump wins. Donald Trump can lie all he wants and says he doesn't know anything about it. That's a complete lie. That is the plan. Don't read the Republican platform, ladies and gentlemen. That's something that isn't true. But that 2025 is what you'll get. And that side, and I've been to a number of sessions on that and argued with them, they believe in the sanctity of marriage despite everything. And what they mean by that, if you're not married, you should suffer. It's just insane. But then the one that we really should all be concerned about, forget all those others. This one is it. He has said on the record that he would not have certified the election results.
And there you go, because that's
so you've got
Donald Trump.
He
will undo what happened. He will make himself 46 or whatever, or
yeah,
that's what he'll do. Like, he's going to undo Biden's presidency if he wins.
Trump. I believe this to be true. Trump will make an attempt that will make him 45, and then he'll be 47. Is that right? Yeah, 47. Not age, but the president.
Right.
And if Trump had his way, he'll be president 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, and as long as he's alive. But here's the other thing.
And they'll give it to Barron.
It's one thing, and that's horrible for a vice president. Because first of all, is it completely against the Constitution? It's not even you don't get a choice. You certify because they shouldn't even have it in there. I mean, it's just a ceremonial thing of giving official sanction to what's already been sanctioned, the election. But he's also expressed skepticism that Pence was ever in any danger. And I think if you listen to any of the people who spoke in that January 6th insurrection with a group of white terrorists, they found Pence, I am convinced that Mr. Pence would not be alive today. Would not be alive today. Same with Nancy Pelosi and some others. But anyway, this is a story we'll be following. Hopefully, we'll only be following it until November, and then Mr. Trump and Mr. Vance will disappear, at least as a not an existential threat. We say, no, this is not an existential threat. This is a real threat. I say this as opinion, but I believe it as fact. If Donald Trump, now with Jd Vance as his running mate, is elected, democracy as we know it is gone. Let me repeat that. I believe, not just as a belief, but as a belief that is a fact, but it's an opinion, so it can't be a fact, that, and I'm not going to come back and be, see, I told you so, because I'll be too busy out there protesting and trying to figure out how to get them out of office if they're there. So that's Mr. Vance. Again, but we always say in these shorter things in our long show, we'll be back to him. He's somebody who's going to be on our radar between now and November. And Lord, and I'm just using Lord, small L, Lord help us, if he and Trump get elected, they'll be there for as long as you and I do this show.
All right, Dave. Thank you.